Merry Christmas, folks, and welcome to a late-night edition of AskGSM for December 25th, 2024, episode 578 here today, the final episode of 2024. I was hoping to do this early in the day on Christmas Eve. Just didn't get a chance, so we're doing it late Christmas night after just an exhausting last couple days, weeks, months, whatever. So we are here to close out 2024, answering your questions. Do want to get it in before the end of the day, so try to make this as quick as possible. If you want to send in a question to the show, you can do so by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRam with the hashtag AskGSM. Find me on Facebook as well, facebook.com/Graham.GSM.Matthews. Drop a comment on the post I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, drop a question down below in the comment section on this very video. I'll include your question in next week's edition. Getting right into it here, Micah does it from YouTube. Their first question was, with this being Triple H's first full year behind creative on his own, what things do you think he did right and wrong in 2024? And what do you want to see him correct for 2025? Right and wrong, I think the overall product has been really strong for the better part of 2024. I think having Cody Rhodes finish his story and become a undisputed WWE champion was probably the best decision he made all year, as opposed to having Roman Reigns retain again, which would have been awful. The mingling of like the brands with the brand split shit, the draft was kind of one of the negatives of the year, I think people would say. The booking of Chad Gable kind of was mind-boggling for a bit, and even still to this day. But overall, I feel like he's done a pretty good job of keeping things consistent. The storytelling with the bloodline, that's been overall intriguing. Intriguing overall, bringing in Tama Tonga and people like Jacob Fatu. Some of the new signings have been exciting and stuff like that, so it's kind of hard to pinpoint exactly the things he's done right and wrong over the course of the year, but those to me have been some of the highlights. As far as what to do better in 2025, doing better with the tag team division, more depth in the women's division. Now that we have the mid-card belts, that's great for the women, but do something with them. Make them interesting. Give me more women's mid-card stories and not just having people flounder on the shows. And it's going to be tougher with 3-hour Raws and now 3-hour SmackDowns. It will get more people on the shows, but if more people are on the shows and the stories aren't interesting, then it doesn't really matter. So they have to focus on that, do better with that in 2025. Less filler, making every pay-per-view feel important. All the pay-per-views this year were good to great, I would say. But making every show, or at least most shows, feel important and not just WrestleMania and SummerSlam. I feel like that more of that sort of thing would go a long way in improving the product from how much better it already is currently. Micah's second question, will you be watching the movie Carry On Netflix? And if you've seen it, what were your thoughts? I haven't seen it yet. I think Alexis also wants to watch it, so I might honestly watch it after this before I go to bed. Decent chance. If I do, then I'll talk about it at some other point. I would definitely do a Letterboxd review, but we'll see. As of right now, I would like to watch it. I have not seen it. I think it takes place during the holidays. It's not really a Christmas movie, but it takes place during the travel period of the holidays. I heard it was decent from a few people, so I might check it out, but we'll see. Micah's third question here. What are the two most memorable gifts that you've gotten in your life, one in your childhood and one as an adult? Merry Christmas also. Thank you, Micah. Merry Christmas to you as well. Most memorable gifts as a kid, the Wii. Getting the Wii as a kid was a fucking game changer. Just a great gift. Really, that was amazing. I got that when I was in 7th grade. Christmas 2007. One of the best ever for that reason alone. As an adult, two stand out. I mean, there's been a bunch, but the two that stand out, getting the Back to the Future hoverboard, which wasn't like a lot of money. It was like a fucking prop hoverboard from Back to the Future 2. But I've been able to get that signed since I got it by Christopher Lloyd, Michael J. Fox. Who are the other ones? Michael J. Fox, Christopher Lloyd, Leah Thompson, and the guy who plays Biff, whose name escapes me right now for whatever reason. I don't know why. But Tom Wilson. That to me is one of my prized possessions. And then also on a signature front, the replica Intercontinental Championship belt. Got that as a gift about 7 years ago, and I've been able to get it signed by dozens rather, of former Intercontinental champions. And that's another prized possession of mine. A really cool gift, because they always wanted the replica title, and they finally got one, and they've been able to make the most of it since then, so that was a really cool gift as well. Jordan B. from YouTube, their first question was, or only question, what scenarios do you see most likely to happen for John Cena's retirement tour? Him winning a world title for the 17th time, or winning the IC title to become a Grand Slam champion? Definitely the former. I know people have been pitching the latter for a while now, and honestly, before 2015, I probably would have never have seen John Cena resorting back to United States Championship status, but he did in 2015, and also challenging for the championship again in 2023 and losing in that mid-match with Austin Theory at WrestleMania 39. I just don't see him in his final year chasing anything but a world championship. It's possible, but like, what is winning, or rather becoming a Grand Slam champion in this company even mean? Like, has anyone even really gone after all the belts? Aside from Sheamus, he wants that Intercontinental Championship. That to him, it means something. It might mean more for the title than like the title of Grand Slam champion itself. I don't know if that's, it's definitely a part of it. But it might be more about that championship specifically. Because if Sheamus wanted all the belts in the company, he would have wanted the Universal Championship. He doesn't. He wants specifically the fucking Intercontinental title. So, I don't think they would tell that Grand Slam Championship story, rather. Sorry, I'm fucking tired. Got to bear with me here. I think it would be more about chasing number 17, and I think he probably will win it at some point. Maybe not at WrestleMania. That would probably be too soon anyway. It should be and would be probably towards the end, if not at the end, winning the championship in his final match and then immediately vacating it or whatever. No L from YouTube, what would be your top 5 Roxanne Perez matches of this year? It would probably be any of her championship defenses. The match in which she won the belt from Lyra Valkyria at Mania Stand and Deliver, or Mania Weekend Stand and Deliver, was really good. I don't know what was better, that or the match they had at Vengeance Day a month or two before that. And that was a really good match too. That turned into a triple threat with Lola Vice. I would probably go the Mania Weekend match. So that one, the Jordan Grace match had a shitty finish, but that was a really good match overall. The, what's her name? Thea Hale match, a Great American Bash in NXT TV, was great. The Jada Parker match was really good. And then also the Lola Vice match was good. The Julia match was good. Trying to think of other matches that she had on TV. Probably the Lola Vice match. But I feel like there was another match that she had after that. Maybe the triple threat, actually, at Spring Break. And I'm just naming all of her fucking title defenses at this point. But the match that she had at Spring Break-In with Tatum Paxley and Lyra Valkyria, where she retained the title, was also really, really good. So I would say that one as well. No L from Facebook. I mentioned their question from YouTube. Another Roxanne Perez question. They also said, Merry Christmas, everyone. Happy holidays. Thank you, Noel. I appreciate that. And then, no pun intended, Noel. Noel. I mentioned that last week. It's very holiday. It's a very festive name. Festive last name as well. But anyway, your question was, another Roxanne Perez question. Would you say Roxanne Perez had the best run in NXT this year alone as far as women's wrestlers? Not only would I say that, I would also say she had the best run of anyone in NXT period this year. And honestly, obviously, that's not really saying a whole ton. I think Ethan Page also had a great year coming in, winning the NXT Championship in short order, having a fun run as champion. He's really adapted very well to that brand. But like Trick Williams had a great year. Hasn't had a whole lot of great matches. He did early on with like Dragunov and Hayes. But like a lot of the matches he's had on TV and at some of these PLEs have not been great. So I would say Perez has had a much better year as far as how she's been booked. Her matches, her character work, her promos. She's been the fucking star of NXT in 2024. The brand overall had a decent year. Perez carried that women's division. That women's division's had a great year. The incorporation of the Women's North American Championship and all this other shit. But Roxanne Perez was the crown jewel of that division by far. Your second question from Facebook anyway. If you had to rank your top five, not favorite, but 2024 wrestling moments of the year, what would they be from AEW and WWE? It's hard to do like top 5 shit because just there's so much stuff that comes to mind or I forget about. I think Cody Rhodes winning the championship, and I'm biased because I was there, but that to me was number 1. Also from Mania, but Priest cashing in was another great moment, also from Night 2 of WrestleMania 40. That was great. Bryan Danielson saving his career only to fucking retire, essentially, a month or two later was dumb. But he did retain his career and win the AEW World Championship at All In from Swerve Strickland. Great match, great moment. That would be up there. The Wyatt Six debut on Raw, the Raw right after Clash of the Castle was great. The Jacob Fatu debut on SmackDown was great. CM Punk I wouldn't put this to the top 5, but when he came out on SmackDown to help out the Bloodline right before War Games, that was really cool. The New Day segment would probably be the top 5, in the top 5 for me, with the New Day turning on Big E, or at least Kofi and Xavier kicking out Big E from the New Day on Raw a couple of weeks ago. That was awesome. Roman Reigns returning at SummerSlam was another great moment. I was there for that one as well. That was really cool. There's been a few. Jordan Grace, honestly, even appearing in the Rumble at all, kind of flew under the radar, but that was an amazing moment too. That really kicked off the TNA WWE working relationship with NXT. So there's been a number. A lot of those are from WWE. From AEW, Mariah May, also from All In, but Mariah May winning the Women's World Championship from Toni Storm, also just betraying her. That was a great angle that closed out Dynamite back in July, I want to say, late June. Pretty sure it was July. Because I think late June was Forbidden Door, and that was when Toni faced Mina Shirakawa. But that Toni Storm, Mariah May storyline angle specifically was fantastic. Okada coming in and joining the Elite, turning heel, was a cool angle. I thought it was kind of dumb at first, and the whole Elite storyline kind of sucked this year, but it was a nice, memorable moment, I would say. As far as other stuff, there isn't really a whole lot that comes to mind, and there's definitely more, but Dynamite just was not great overall. In 2024, the Sting retirement, everything about that was great. Sting and Darby versus the Bucks and him winning the belts, or rather retaining the championships in his final match. Everything about that match and that presentation was excellent. That was another great moment of 2024 in wrestling, I would say. Christopher L. from Facebook. Their first question was, he says, Merry Christmas, Graham. Hope you and Alexis had a great day and a Happy New Year. Thank you, Christopher. I appreciate that, dude. He goes on to say, I read your article that you typed up a couple of weeks ago about WWE failing Gunther as a world champion, and I agree. I feel he should be given more of a spotlight as someone who should be the top guy in your brain instead of being cast aside and playing a third wheel in a stretched-out rivalry between two members of the Judgment Day, Finn Balor and Damian Priest, the latter a former member. Now he's set to face that idiot Logan Paul on the January 6th premiere on Netflix. I feel while he's pushed fairly well, he's not given as much attention as Triple H's favorites, like Priest, Balor, and DIY. DIY is a random fucking example, by the way. But anyway, he goes on to say, what do you say or what do you think should be WWE's plan with Gunther to make up for his disappointing latter half of 2024? You wrote 2025, but I think you meant 2024. So a couple things here. To say that Gunther is not one of Triple H's favorites is a wild thing to say. I mean, this man has been booked perfectly, almost perfectly, because I agree. I was telling the truth in everything that I said about Gunther as the World Heavyweight Champion in my recent article for Bleacher Report a couple of weeks ago, as far as them failing him as the World Heavyweight Champion. But overall, he's been booked amazingly well under Triple H. He is absolutely one of Triple H's favorites. The booking hasn't been ideal. I think it's a choice they made intentionally to tell more of a story with him as far as him losing his confidence. It's not really a story that I particularly have enjoyed, but I can see what they're trying to do. They need to make him the face of that show, unless they ship him to SmackDown in exchange for Cody Rhodes, which seems like that could be the case, which I would not want to see personally. I would rather just keep Gunther on Raw as the World Heavyweight Champion. In that case, they really need to book him better, give him high-profile opponents, whether it be a Rollins or a Punk or anyone of that ilk, and not just, Sami Zayn and people like that have been, upper card challengers, but they haven't main evented shows for a reason. They've main evented Raw, but not fucking pay-per-views because they're not pay-per-view main events. So giving him people like Punk, giving him people like Rollins. I know he feuded with Cody Rhodes, but that wasn't for the World Heavyweight Championship. That was the whole crown jewel nonsense. So kind of focusing in on making him a dominant threat again, which they started at Saturday Night's main event. And then just to correct you, they did not announce officially, and I don't think it's even happening on that show at all, Gunther and Logan Paul for the World Heavyweight Championship. It was teased. Logan Paul said that he wants the World Heavyweight Championship at some point, or a World Championship. They did not say the match is happening on that show. That would be completely fucking ridiculous. For him to be gone, which I'm not putting it past WWE, but for him to be gone for 4 or 5 months and his first match back is for the World Heavyweight Championship. That would be completely fucking dumb. I think Logan Paul will be on that show. They might kick off a feud between Gunther and Logan Paul. I don't think they would do it this soon. I think it's for something down the road. I think Punk and Gunther might be next, honestly, from what you can kind of tell, from what we've seen on TV and what people have said. Kind of seems like we might be headed in that direction. But yeah, they're not doing that match, and if they do, Gunther should fucking kill him. And they can make Logan Paul look competitive, but Gunther's got to win decisively. No interference, get him away from the Judgment Day bullshit. I agree with all of that. Your second question, does Shawn Michaels book too many of his greatest hits callbacks from his own career in NXT as head booker? Yes, he does. Like when he was doing it early on, with like Toxic Attraction, their breakup, doing the whole Shawn and Marty thing, among other moments and whatnot. Like, it was cool, but it's like now, like the fucking Lost Your Smile thing with Ethan Page and Javon Evans, it was really well done last week, but it was so predictable. At this point, NXT is basically a tribute show to the man running it in Shawn Michaels. It doesn't have to be that on the nose. Like, I don't think Triple H was booking, and a lot of the angles from his career sucked, but like, when Triple H was running NXT, it didn't really seem like all the angles they were rehashing were shit from his career. It wasn't that on the nose. Like, it might be shit that looked familiar, but not necessarily from his career specifically. We are getting that from Shawn Michaels' NXT. Whether it's his doing or the writers, I don't know. But it's, again, a time or two is fine, but they've done it enough, including recently, where it's like, all right, this is just ridiculous at this point. You know what I mean? So it is annoying. Doesn't kill the show, but it is a little excessive at times. Let's put it that way. Your third question. Not many wrestlers in the business have had a sadder fall from grace as Ricochet has had when he joined AEW. He came in with excitement, and ever since his first television match, he's basically been roundly mocked and ridiculed for everything he does. Honestly, I can see him come off as a, he said, honestly, I can see why, is what he said. His matches are usually very good, but his insufferable mannerisms and obnoxious promos make him come off as deeply unlikable. His Twitter game is another story on its own, and funny enough, he can't even make his Twitter game convincing. Where do you think it all went wrong for him, and do you think that this will lead to an eventual heel turn that could salvage his run so far? He hasn't had an awful run. It has been overall underwhelming. I mean, he's had some fun matches, but honestly, like, the shit that we're getting from him in AEW is not drastically different from what we were seeing from him in WWE, at least towards the end. One of his final Raw matches was that match with Ilya Dragunov, the Raw that I went to right after Backlash. That was fucking amazing. One of, if not the best Raw match all year. And I would put that up against any AEW match he's had so far. The Ospreay match was great on Collision on Saturday of last week. That was really, really cool. We need more of that Ricochet. Turning him heel is the right step. I think the whole Hurt Syndicate shit where he was like simping over them was weird. And I know what they're going for with why they did that, but it made him look like such a fucking loser for them to turn him down, and it was just weird. So I wasn't a fan of that. I think they can turn it around, honestly. Like, just let him shine in the ring, come across like an asshole, not a loser, but an asshole, and just be booked better. He was winning for a while until he finally lost one-on-one for the first time at Full Gear. So it's not like he lost right out of the gate, which would have been dumb. I mean, he did it all in, but he wasn't pinned, I don't think. So he wasn't pinned until All In, or rather until Full Gear in November. And he's lost a few matches since then. So kind of getting back on track. It's not like he's completely unsalvageable. I'm not going to sit here and shit on Ricochet the same way that many people are. But I don't know if it's like creative freedom with the promos or God knows what. But yeah, the promos are just fucking terrible. At least they are aware of that at this point, and they're incorporating that into his character and turning him heel. in just embracing the negative reaction he's been getting online. And they read too much into the online reaction and shit, but I think that is how a majority of people do feel about Ricochet, the AEW audience, that is, as far as, yeah, he hasn't really been lighting the world on fire so far, so we're going to boo him. So they're leaning into that, which is smart. I do like that. Their next question here, and this is a bit of a long one from Christopher, so bear with me. He says, I have never been a huge fan or got the hype of the whole Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns feud. I agree with what you said last week, where you said it was an overrated rivalry. The first time they fought, the rivalry cared more about making Roman seem like he's the end-all, be-all of the WWE than it was about Brock as champion. The match at WrestleMania 31, however, was tremendous. When they ran it back in 2018, the rivalry was about Brock having no loyalty towards WWE, and Roman is the savior of the company, which I thought was absolutely nauseating television. The match at WrestleMania 34 was one of the most embarrassing matches I've ever seen. Two men who the crowd despised, having zero chemistry, no ring psychology, no story, and Roman ends up getting his ass kicked and made to look like a fool. It was only until after COVID where the story really got interesting, with both parties switched in their roles and Paul Heyman being included, even though you could see Heyman's heel turn to the Royal Rumble 2022 coming 1,000 miles away. The match at WrestleMania 38 was forgettable, and the rivalry concluded with an awesome match at SummerSlam 2022. With that image of Brock using a tractor to lift the ring and Roman tumbling backwards out of the ring stuck in my mind to this day. In actuality, after the rivalry, WWE couldn't really figure out what to do with Brock, and it resulted in his final feud with Cody last year that moved at a snail's pace, despite being only 4 months, and Brock never explaining why he keeps assaulting Cody. Do you think WWE really botched this rivalry from the start? Was pushing Roman too hard at the start, destined to, and the fact that they pushed him too hard at the start meant that he was destined to have the fans backfire and turn on Reigns immediately. And do you agree WWE should have had a better game plan with Brock after his rivalry with the Tribal Chief ended? Loaded question. I'll try to keep it brief. Like I said, I don't have a ton of time, but as far as the feud is concerned, I wouldn't say it is. Overrated by who? WWE? Probably, because I think a lot of fans acknowledge that they did not have great chemistry at times. But I enjoyed a lot of the matches they had from that 2021 through 2022 feud. The storytelling there with Heyman, like you said, was great. I completely agree with that. The feuds in 2015 and 2018 sucked. The 2015 match was great. The matches in 2018 were not great. So their matches are very hot and cold. They have great chemistry when the story is right, and the circumstances are right. When it's not, the matches aren't good. But when the story and circumstances are right, the matches are very good. So it's not like all their matches are awful. The 2015 one did suck as they were pushing Roman too hard, too quickly as the guy when he wasn't the guy back in 2015. When people really wanted Daniel Bryan back in that spot, and they put Roman in that spot instead. They did go wrong on that front. As far as did WWE botch the feud? From the start, yeah, because it was destined to be this big feud, and it did in the years that followed. And it was always like the guy, like we always know we're going to get back to Brock finally losing to Roman Reigns, which we did not do at WrestleMania in 2015. But no one gave a fuck. After 2015, no one really wanted to see Roman finally beat Brock. He did in 2018, but no one gave a shit. That was the problem. So, as far as the game plan after Brock finally beat Roman Roman finally beat Brock in 2022, yeah, the aftermath was like, there was no aftermath. He disappeared. When did he disappear until? 2023? Then they did the Bobby Lashley thing again. That was weird. That didn't really go anywhere. The Cody feud wasn't great. The Cody feud was fine. The matches I thought were really good. The last one was great. I really enjoyed Cody and Brock at SummerSlam. And they just kind of, at least at that point, they were started using Brock. They were starting to use him as like an attraction. And I think in that role, if utilized well, can work. Putting him with people like Omos and shit, that was a fucking waste of a WrestleMania match for Brock Lesnar. That might go down as his final WrestleMania match ever. I don't think it will, but as of right now, it is. So that's a wild thought. But yeah, a lot to dissect there. Those are my thoughts, though. Clark T from Facebook. Clark, great to see you here on the show. Thank you for sending in. Clark's an awesome dude. Hope you're having a great holiday. Your question was, who do you have as your superstar of the year? And do you think AEW should seriously look into running smaller venues? For the first part of your question, if it's just WWE, you said superstar. For me, it's Cody Rhodes. I think Cody Rhodes was the guy in 2024, finally winning the championship, has held the championship ever since. Some great matches in that time with Gunther. The AJ Styles matches were really, really good. The Kevin Owens matches have been very, very good. So, for me, it's Cody Rhodes. Overall in wrestling, if you include WWE and AEW, I would go Will Ospreay. Will Ospreay had a much better year in the ring than Cody Rhodes. And Cody Rhodes had a great year in the ring. Ospreay's was 5 times better. So I would go Ospreay overall. WWE only, Cody Rhodes. As far as AEW running smaller venues, yes, they absolutely fucking should. That has been evident since like the DC show last week for Dynamite. The Hammerstein Ballroom shows have been great. I wish I was at least one of them. That environment is amazing. So they absolutely should. It looks better. It sounds better. Just admit defeat. Acknowledge that you're not selling out these bigger arenas the same way that you were a couple of years ago, even as recently as a year ago. And scale back. Because otherwise, if you continue to be stubborn and stick with the bigger arenas and fill them up at like a tenth of the capacity, it just looks bad and it's only making the product worse. But when you scale back and run smaller venues as they were 5 years ago, the product feels a lot hotter. And that will go a long way in improving the product, in my opinion. At Reborn, John Ritland from the Twitter Machine and on YouTube, Real Honesty with John Ritland. His question was, as the year draws to a close, what are 3 positives and 3 negatives that stick out about the wrestling product throughout 2024? I mentioned the WWE stuff earlier. AEW, this was easily their weakest year yet. I mean, you could say what you want about, like, oh, the fans are against AEW, blah, blah, blah. This was by far their weakest year, by a pretty wide fucking margin. But, you know, it had its positives. The rise of Swerve Strickland was great. Ospreay had an amazing year in the ring. Dynamite just does not feel must-see anymore. Attendance is down. They brought in Okada, and they also brought in Mercedes Moné. Neither really feel like the big stars that they should be. But AEW completely fucking smoked WWE in the department of matches, like by a pretty wide margin. The business is hot, specifically WWE. That's great. AEW is not hot. But hopefully they can turn things around and, kind of be motivated to want to turn things around. WWE, we've seen some fresh faces rise up. There's been a fair share of positives and negatives. And I mentioned the WWE stuff earlier, like I said. But overall, I think 2024 was a pretty great year for wrestling. And I hope to see it do even bigger and better things in 2025. His second question, non-wrestling related, yes, another movie question. What are your thoughts on the Superman trailer? Looks like they may have gotten this one right. Side note, I'm at 334 movies for the year, rather. Just a few more to go. That's nuts. We might have to break those down as we always do. At some point in the next week, I'll hit you up, John, separately in the next day or two about that, if I can find the time in the coming week. But I did watch the Superman trailer. It looked very cool. I've never been a big Superman guy. I watched the original Christopher Reeves movies, at least the first 1 or 2, probably the first 4, a very long time ago. And I liked them at the time. I didn't see Man of Steel. I've seen a couple of the Zack Snyder movies in recent years. I didn't watch Man of Steel, but I watched some of the other ones like Justice League, which were trash. So I've never really been a big Superman guy, but I love James Gunn. I have faith in James Gunn, and the trailer looked cool. Doesn't mean the movie will automatically be great, but from what I've seen so far and heard about it, it does look very promising. So I'm looking forward to that in 2025. At Millennial Noob from Twitter, we'll probably just fucking bust through these last couple questions here before I got to get going. His question was from Twitter. What are your thoughts on Rampage being canceled? I always thought of it as AEW Dark on live TV. It used to be exciting ever since CM Punk debuted in AEW, or at least early on anyway. It could not come a day sooner. Rampage should have been canceled a while ago. It has been AEW Dark for a while. Not when it first started, but like in the second, third, fourth year, it absolutely fucking was. So I'm honestly kind of glad it's getting canceled. Another show less for me to review and watch. And it's been pointless for a very long time, so I think it's an overdue development. Put more effort into making Collision feel more worthwhile. The ratings were garbage anyway, so put the effort into making Collision and Dynamite feel more important and not just having content for the sake of content, which I feel like Tony Khan has kind of fallen into that trap in the last couple of years. His second question, do you think that Naomi is the person who attacked Jade Cargill? Because the last few weeks, everyone has theorized on who attacked Jade during the lead-up to War Games. It seems like Naomi might be turning heel at some point. I do think it's Naomi. I think the writing is on the wall with that one as far as how she's acted around Bianca anytime the Jade thing has been brought up. Whatever reason you can pinpoint that on as far as, she's jealous or whatever, which I think is cool. So, yeah, I do think it is Naomi. I'm in full favor of that. I want to see heel Naomi for the first time in a few years. Maybe a decade, not even a few years. Like 10 years she hasn't been a heel since, like 2016. I'm excited for it. I'm looking forward to see that. I'm looking forward to seeing that. At @RJ_Marceau, Mr. Marceau's question was, if you had to rank the 5 NXT women with the most star potential on the main roster, who would it be? It's a good question. He asked me this when we went to NXT in Lowell last week. So I think that's why he's asking me that here. I honestly don't know if Roxanne would be on that list. Gonna be honest. I feel like Julia, yes. I feel like Julia, Stephanie Vakir, Zarya, probably, even if it might be bottom 5. Sol Ruka, I think, could be a big star, honestly. Her, Jada Parker, Julia, Stephanie. It's hard to even say Roxanne, honestly. I just don't feel like, and even RJ said, I feel like her size might hold her back. I'm thinking of who else they have in NXT. Not Ren Sinclair. Probably not Cora Jade. Who else do they have in NXT? Fatal Influence. Honestly, you know what? Kalani Jordan. I think Kalani Jordan can be very successful on the main roster. She's got to develop more of a personality. If not her, then definitely Roxanne. I think Roxanne can be great. But I think Kalani Jordan, they see more in as a homegrown star. She just has that certain vibe about her that might make her a very easy fan favorite on the main roster at some point down the road. So I feel bad leaving out Roxanne, but I just don't feel like she has that most star potential on the main roster. She might be, I hope she is very successful because she's great. And, I'll probably put her over Kalani Jordan, but I see her, I see Julia, I see Stephanie, Sol Ruka, and Jada Parker specifically, all being bigger stars than Roxanne Perez on the main roster in the long run, at least in my opinion. Last 3 questions at Iwagu91. Do you think it was a mistake to turn Otis heel in 2021 to last year, considering how likable he is? Well, when they first turned him heel, it was COVID. And it was right after the Mandy Rose storyline ended, and he had no fan support. They booked him fucking terribly. So honestly, the only way to turn things around for him was going back to being a heel for at least a little while. So no, I don't think it was a dumb idea. They kind of forgot how to book him, and turning him heel was questionable, but in the end, it worked out. Elf Academy was great for as long as it lasted. We still have it, but I'm talking about the tag team with Chad Gable. And it did endear him back to the audience in the long run. So at least there was that positive. Your second question, with Michael Cole and Pat McAfee set to return to Raw when it heads to Netflix next year, do you think that Joe Tess should go to SmackDown? I think that's already been confirmed. I think it's going to be Joe Tess, Wade Barrett, and Corey Graves on SmackDown, a 3-man booth, I know. No thanks. With Michael Cole and Pat McAfee on Raw. I'd rather a 3-man booth than Corey or Wade getting the boot, which would suck. But I think it is confirmed that Joe Tess, he's not going anywhere. Like, he's not getting fucking kicked off the show. They wouldn't bring him in just to get rid of him. They are definitely moving him to SmackDown. I'm pretty sure that's been confirmed for a while. And then last question, also from Iwago91. Your thoughts on even Dominic Mysterio not condoning the New Day's actions towards Big E? By the way, Merry Christmas. Thank you very much, Merry Christmas. Yeah, no, I thought that was great, that even the New Day cannot win over Dominic Mysterio. Like, their betrayal of Big E was so heinous that even Dominic Mysterio, who fucking betrayed his own father, was disgusted with him. Or was disgusted with both Kofi and Big E. I thought that was tremendous. So, I thought that was a fun little detail on Raw this week. That's going to do it, guys, for today's edition of #AskGSM, the Christmas episode. I'm desperately trying to record this despite a shot voice, being tired, a busy week, month, day, week, month, whatever you want to call it. And getting this out as soon as possible for it to go up on Christmas. And if it doesn't, that's fine. But hoping to be back on schedule for next week. Next Wednesday is New Year's Day, so I'm probably going to record it on New Year's Day itself and not on New Year's Eve. Just a heads up on that. So you can still probably send in questions on Tuesday. That will be our first episode of 2025 and the very first day of 2025. So looking forward to that. But thank you guys, as always, for sending in your questions. Be sure to do so by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRamble, the hashtag AskGSM. Find me on Facebook as well, facebook.com/Graham.gsm.Matthews. Drop a comment on the post I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, drop your question down below in the comment section on this very video. I'll include your question in next week's edition. Have an awesome one, folks. A very Merry Christmas and a very happy holiday. Thank you guys, as always, for your support. You guys are the best. Wouldn't be able to do it without you guys. Have an awesome holiday. I'm Graham GSM Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the reindeer road.